Welcome to Sons of God 24/7 Ministries, and I'm Roxy, and I was starting into a testimony of how we had just seen the battle of David and Goliath and how that could relate to our lives. And those are not in there for no reason at all. They're in there for a reason and worthy of being put in there. Well, we got to see weekend before last, we got to see it applied in my life and in the life of my grandson, actually two grandsons, and their mom and dad, and how that God does come in. And I've been studying faith a lot because I need to, and I see the body of Christ, and most of us are believing the Lord for finances, for healings, for our children, grandchildren, and all of the above. And sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, sometimes we're not winning at all, and we know it's because we don't have the revelation of the Word. Because I'm going to tell you, God wins every time. Well, I had been praying that the Lord would reveal Himself to all of us, every one of us, and the revelation of Him, that He's a real person in our life. And I had taught last Wednesday night, Christian Life Fellowship, and I said, you know, I have learned that, at least part of, I won't say I've learned everything, but the fatherhood of God, that He is now in my life. When the Word says pray without ceasing, that's not hard to do. You're walking in a relationship with Him 24/7. And if you're not, that means you're in the flesh, and that's when the enemy comes in and you lose. So this is a lifestyle, a way of life. And I've seen this last generation, and I'll tell you what, the last generation, including me. And how you get there, I don't know. The devil is so smart that he just takes you little bit at a time, and down the road you look back and say, well, how did I get here? And I was telling Francie Glover, my cousin's wife, and everything, I said, you know, I was reading one time, and I run across in the Old Covenant somewhere that it said, and Israel did not have the Ark of the Covenant, which was the presence of the Lord, with them in their life, in a sense, for 20 years. That meant, what it was saying was, for 20 years Israel didn't have. The Word says Israel always did their own thing. Well, isn't that the same story with us? That if we're not just in the Spirit all the time, little by little, He takes territory, and 20 years down the road we look back and say, well, how did I get here? And I'm sure every one of us has experienced that in some form or another, you know. But when I read that, I thought, what? I can hear my cousin Marshall, her husband, I can hear him say, what? They didn't have the presence of the Lord for 20 years in their life? Now, you still have somewhat the presence of the Lord, but not that overcoming, victorious, joyful. I had to battle to get my joy back. And I'll tell you, when I first got born again, I'm telling you right now, I mean, well, people said it was radical. Well, I don't care if it was radical. I'm coming back to radical again, because really, we are radical compared to what the world sees. But why, those 20 years, God blessed us. He blessed us, and we took the blessings, naturally. But when the blessings take you, and they do, everything you buy, I thought at one time, I would love to have a boat, a big nice boat, you know. But you know what? That would set a lifestyle in my life, because if you pay $20,000, $30,000 for a boat, you're going to use it, you know. And the snare of that would be that you would use it on Sunday, you know. And people disagree with things, and that's okay. But I found out one thing. When I don't know what the Lord does want, then I take the way that maybe He don't make you do everything. I got rid of things I didn't have to get rid of. I did things it was okay to do. But if I didn't know, then I quit it. And I'll tell you, when I did that, guys, I had power. And day after tomorrow, or 10 years down the road, all of that, well, I'm going to tell you, I lost a husband that was a really good husband. And he had his part in it, but if I'd been where I was at one time, he couldn't have died. I lost a son, 36 years old, one of my twins. And I believe to this day that if I'd been where I should have been in the Lord, and I know there's people going to disagree with that, and that's okay. But I know where I was at one time. And when they got down sick, I wasn't where I was at. And evidently by the fruit, I didn't have the power. Well, I'm scurrying and trying to get back there, and I want to take you with me. If you'll go with me, I want to take you with me. I want to teach you what the Lord's teaching me. I can do that. Can't make you go, but I can teach you what the Lord's teaching me. And love doing it. I'm enjoying this. I'm having a barrel of fun with this. And Tommy is too. And we're growing spiritually because of it. So I was telling how that the Lord revealed Himself actually to Ryan and me and Dylan and Bobby and Stacy. They don't like for me to brag on them, not at all, so this will not please them, but I'm going to do it anyway. And so anyway, Saturday came. He'd already lost a game on that Friday night before that, but still qualified for the regionals. And so he had 4 of them he had to do to get to the sectionals. He had he had to win at least 3 evidently to get to the sectionals. And I'm just basically saying, Lord, protect him. I can see where they can really get hurt. And it's hard for a grandma to sit up in the grandstands and watch your grandson being basically losing, let's say it that way. And yet somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. And so anyway, I walked over and started talking to Ryan, and I started telling him about David, that David was a man of the covenant, and maybe some boys that you wrestle be boys of the covenant, but don't have the faith to believe. Well, I've started putting faith in him, that God's going to reveal Himself to Ryan, that you can't win it. Before you go in, you can't win it. Yeah, that's right. And so I want the Lord to show you that with Him, you can do it. With Him, there's not anything you can't do. Do you agree with Grandma for that? Absolutely. It's survival at this point, And so he wrestled his second time. So the second time, he won. And he was shocked at that. He came off the floor saying, Grandma, I didn't win it. God did it. He said, I know I did my part and I had to do my part, but I'm telling you right now, God did it. Well, his grandma's over there saying, send that angel right in between Ryan and that boy. Words of your mouth, loosen the power. So I'm trying to teach you a lot in all this too. And anyway, he won. So then he had the third one to come up. And so I'm telling him about David and reassuring him too that the battle he's got his part, but God's got his. And I even told him, I said, I'll tell you what, Ryan, you've not been trained on the different moves that you can make to get out of this situation, that situation, but God knows those moves. So Grandma's praying that you're going to do them automatically, that He's got those angels right in there with you, and that with that, He can make you make the right move at the right time to win it. Can you believe that? Yes, he did. So he did the third one, and then the fourth one, he had to fight that same. Well, I asked him that, and so the fourth one came. He said, Grandma, I hope I got 5 more stones. That was what he said. And I said, are you going to be wrestling the boy that took you down Friday and the first one today? And he didn't even answer me. He went like that. And I said, well, he's not winning this one. In the name of the Lord, he is not winning this one. You hear me, Ryan? You're going to win this one because God is with you, and He's going to reveal Himself to you that He does. And I had asked the Lord, I don't know how much. And I imagine we've all asked this question. How much of our life that we do you get in? Well, we need to know that He's got us in that battle, and we need His help. We don't need to be out of the will of the Lord and say, no matter what I do, God's going to get me out of it, or He's going to do it. No, it don't work that way. You're walking with God. And the part I didn't tell, the last 3 years, I'm pretty sure it was 3 years, when he went to camp. And parents, you need your children going to camps every year, and everything else you can get them in, because that's what's wrong with this world to begin with. But Ryan came home every year saying, I want to be a youth pastor. So I know that that's what, bottom line, that God's got for him. Now, what He will allow in his life, and that, because that may not be the only thing he does, and he can use, there's the Tim Tebows, and that would be a miracle. And I know he's like in another sport, but there are those kind of guys that are raising up in their sports, and they're giving the Lord the glory. They know they can't do it by themselves, and they know full well God's doing it and helping them and everything. So anyway, that was the fourth one on Saturday. And so that was against that boy, done whipped him 2 times. But the words of your mouth, you've got to confess it. You've got to tell that giant, no, I'm taking you down today. I'm sure that boy, I don't even know who he was, but I'm sure he was bragging to all the boys about that was the second time that he had, let's see, what did Dylan call it? He smoked him 2 times already. And everything. He was in the natural, he'd been trained. He was a better wrestler. Now, Ryan did real good not to have the training that he needs to actually be a winning wrestler, and everything. Because it's not just all your strength and all, it's moves you make, it's moves you get out of, So anyway, on it goes. Here goes the battle. And Ryan was looking good. I mean, the other boy, it was an even up match. I mean, the Lord made the difference. Ryan was wrestling every bit as good as that boy was. Every bit as good. And yet the boy, you win by two ways. You can pin him and the battle's over. Or you get points for doing certain things during the match, and you can win just on the points. Well, if it had been just on the points, and I may be wrong on this, and trust me, if I am, I will hear it. That's okay. But I think that boy was beating him on the points, and the only way that he could beat him was with a pin. Well, they got right down, and everybody's hollering, you only got 30 seconds, Ryan. You only got 15 seconds, Ryan. Do you know, with 4 seconds left, man, he made a move, or him and the Lord, let me say it that way, him and the Lord made a move some way, rolled that boy over, because it's hard to get them from their face like that, over on their back, and I don't remember what position he came from, but I'll say this, with 4 seconds left, he got that boy over on his back and gave him a push down and held him, and the buzzer rang, and Ryan won. Now, he come off of there, this is cute too, he come off of there saying, I'm going to tell you, I did not win that. God won it. And they're all hollering, oh, Ryan, you're going to the regionals or sectionals. You're going to go to the sectionals. Ryan said, I don't want to go to the sectionals. And Bobby and Stacy just loves it. Stacy said that when she gets to be that, she's going to be that old lady, grandkids on her lap, and she's going to go to the wrestling matches and all the sports things. She really loves it. And so does Bobby. But he was saying, I don't want to go to the sectionals. So finally, and he said this, and I don't know that his mom and dad, they'd have to have heard him. But finally, he knew how he was winning. So finally, he said, well, if Grandma will go with me, I'll go. So that meant we had to go to the sectionals and everything. So anyway, then I'm not knowing what God's going to do. I'm thinking, well, but I'm still asking him. I think we need to pray to win. We need to pray to be blessed. We need to pray for the ultimate and believe for it and confess it with our mouth, and then let God be God. So, first one, on that Saturday, he'd had 4 to go through on that Saturday, that next Saturday, which was last Saturday, and everything. Well, he ended up and won that one. And I think that's the one, it is the one, that he had to fight that boy again. I'm pretty sure of that. I'm not sure on that. But anyway, he won that one. And so we're thinking, man, we're on it, because this is like, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 wins. And you're talking about the kids, the better kids, better wrestlers, not better kids, but better wrestlers, because they're going to the regional and then to the sectional. Well, make a long story short, that boy threw him into a thing and took his shoulder and elbow pretty much out. I wanted him to give it up. I was hollering, give it to him, Ryan. You can't go back in there and hope to win with the one arm. You just couldn't hope to win it. And sure enough, he didn't. He didn't win that one, which was actually, now, if he'd have won that one and kept on like we was, then we'd ended up at the state. And so I was praying about it so I would know how to help my grandson. So he won, 4 in a row, 1, 2, 3, 4 in a row, and everything. So why didn't he win that one? I don't think the Lord wanted him to go to the state. That's what I think. That's what I feel like the Lord showed me, and everything. So he was there, and he let Ryan see. Ryan knew when that was over with. And then Grandma told him, I said, Ryan, now everything that you do in life, if God's in it, now if he's not in it, and he don't want you to go to the state, then you probably won't win. We'll believe him to win. We'll believe him for that, because then we'll know. Now, there's another way to do that. You can hear the voice of the Lord and say, I don't want you going to state, Ryan. And I was having a ball. Stacy said, well, we finally got Grandma involved in it. Well, I wasn't involved in the winning. I mean, I'm thankful I wanted him to win, or Ryan wouldn't have seen what God can do in his life. I wanted him to win. I prayed for the other boy that he wouldn't be hurt. Neither one of them hurt. That, it would end up just to be a sport, and it would be good for both of them, and I prayed for Ryan to win, even the last one, and but knew that, well, I didn't know. I come home because I was all excited about him winning. Maybe this, maybe that, But when the dust settled, I was able to hear the Lord. He didn't want him going to the state. So I don't know about next year. Maybe he didn't want him to go to the state, because state's going to be harder yet. And if Ryan is going to wrestle, and God's saying it's okay for him to wrestle, that he's got time to wrestle and study the Word too, and learn the ways of the Lord to prepare for him being a youth pastor, I'm confessing that he's going to be a youth pastor, that God has got that plan for him. And matter of fact, the little church that I go to and I teach at, and I was sharing this with them, and they said, shocked. Diane was shocked, and she said, we're praying for a youth pastor. Well, if David can take some giants at 17, then why can't Ryan be a youth pastor at 17, 18 years old? I think he can. Matter of fact, Psalms 144, all the parents say, oh, let them have a good time. Matter of fact, a guy told me about a woman that come to church mad at him. He was a preacher, and he had got her son born again, and she didn't want him born again. He's young. I want him to have a good time. I want him to have a good life. Well, how dumb is that? I mean, seriously, how dumb is that? That the God of this whole universe knew you before you were even born, and had a plan for your life before you were placed in your mother's womb. He saw you even in your sperm stage. You wasn't an accident. And just like with Jeremiah, he was ordained a prophet to the nations before the foundations of the earth. Paul was ordained to preach the gospel to the Gentiles before the foundations of the earth. Now this is sad. What I'm fixing to tell you now is sad. I had an experience with the Lord is what brought me to the Lord. And he told me that he was unhappy. But see, unhappy wasn't the word. Disappointed. That he was disappointed in me. And that he had given me one gift, and I hadn't used it for him. And so I said, well, what's the gift? I didn't know I had a gift. And he said, I gave you the gift to be able to explain yourself in such a way that people understand you. Well, the only gifts I knew was 1 Corinthians 13, love and all of these, and the least of all speaking in tongues, those kind of gifts. But there's all kinds of gifts. I know now that that's a teaching gift, the ability to express yourself in such a way that people understand you. And I've had, you don't know how many people tell me that verbatim. Roxy, I've never understood it. Call me and say, I don't understand particularly the baptism of the Holy Spirit. And I know you wasn't raised that way either. And my sons got the baptism of the Holy Spirit, and I don't understand it. And his mom and dad was preachers and everything. And so I explained it to her the way the Lord had me, and she said, I understand it for the first time. She said, girl, you've got a gift of being able to express yourself in such a way that people understand you. And I had goosebumps running up all through me, But you know what's bad about that? And maybe it is the timing of the Lord, I don't know. Because I remember one day, a preacher had called me, and he said, sis, I've never believed in women preachers. But he said, well, I've had two pastors to tell me that. But he said, you've got a story to tell. Even though I don't understand it, you go ahead and tell it. And everything. So I appreciated that, because that was encouraging to me, because to tell you the truth, I didn't believe in women preachers. Now, I don't believe that I am preaching. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Don't care what it is. I know I'm teaching, and that's the gift that he gave me. And I receive it now. But isn't that awful that I was born again when I was 32 years old, went to an altar prayer at 15, but I didn't know I didn't know what else, and nobody was teaching me what else, so I was aborted. I was not born again. When I was 32 years old, the Lord came to me, and I had an experience with him, and that's when he told me that he was disappointed in me. And that He gave me one gift. And there was more in that, but I won't share that right now. But anyway, what He had told me was concerning my brother and my sister, and I can tell you they're both born again now. And everything. But nevertheless, I think, well, why did you wait until I'm 73 years old? And you know, back then I was younger, stronger, all of the above. But you know what? He doesn't need what we had. I had second highest typing in the state. I took every award for every class I was in, and I thought I'd make a good church secretary. Well, that never did happen. And what He gave me to do, I wasn't able to do. He called me to play a piano at the Quality Christian Center, and I tell you, it took about 4 years for me to learn enough. I've done funerals. I wasn't a piano player, and I would come down off of that platform and have Charlie horses in my legs. I was so nervous, particularly at a funeral, and didn't like doing them, you know, and everything. And finally I said, Lord, I'm going to tell you this. If you want me to continue doing this, I don't have a peace about it. It's hard for me to do. I don't feel like I'm qualified to do it. There are people who are good at that, and they should be doing that. I should be doing whatever I'm good at. But so I told Him, I said, if you don't take this away from me, this fear away from me, then I don't know that I'm going to continue to do it. Well, He didn't take it away from me. He increased that gift as well. And so I've helped another worship teams, established one at one time, and so God used it too. He used it too. And sang in a gospel group, I don't know how many years, lots of them. One of the guys just died last year, and once in a while, as a matter of fact, we had just done a singing, and was the best we'd ever done, old as we are. So I guess in part of this, I'm encouraging the old people. There's things that we know. I'm just now to where when the Lord shows me this one thing, matter of fact, it actually causes me a problem, because I want to tell all this too that I knew, you know, and that's not always good to do, particularly when you just got 30 minutes. But anyway, I want to encourage you that most of the people, Moses was 80. Matter of fact, he was in the flesh in his 40s. God don't need our flesh. That's what I'm trying to say. But He will reveal Himself to your grandchildren, to your children, to you. Now, when you seek Him with your whole heart, then can I be found. That's what He says. Call to me, and I will answer and show you great and revelational things that you do not know. And so, me and the Lord's having a really good time. Tommy, I think I've shared all that I need to share with this, hon. You can't hear me. Tommy. Yep, I'm done. So I haven't said stay with us yet. You told me a while ago, well, I was waiting for you to say stay with us. And my son Terry says I've got to do something besides that, you know. But anyway, do stay with us and learn what I'm learning.